Where would the NFL be without the New York Jets? Made two huge moves trade deadline day, and we're here to break them down. We're talking about Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, and I'm going to do my best to try to talk about the trades just from a football perspective. And then towards the end of the video, give my perspective as a Jets fan and the future of the Jets and what I think it means for Muji and Aaron Glenn and just kind of my rambling thoughts. But the first part of this video, first half of this video, I'm going to try to do a bit more organized, give my thoughts on the players, how they fit with their teams. But yeah, let's get into it. Let's first talk about the trade that I think shocked everybody. This is probably the most surprising trade in the NFL since Stafford got moved to the Rams, maybe. I'm trying to think just off the top of my head where this ranks in terms of just shocking moments because nobody thought Sauce Gardner was available, right? You had the Eagles going out there and making moves for Jair Alexander and, funny enough, Michael Carter with the Jets, but nobody really thought that Sauce Gardner would even be, touchable, let alone be able to actually be acquired for a couple of draft picks. So the Jets trade Sauce Gardner to the Indianapolis Colts, 7-2, coming off a brutal loss to the Steelers. They probably saw that and said, let's beef up the secondary a little bit. Jets get a first round pick in 2026 and a first round pick in 2027, along with AD Mitchell. So, first, let's just talk about the return. Then we'll talk about Sauce Gardner and what I think about him. From a straight value perspective, it's hard to be mad at the value the Jets got. Two first round picks along with a receiver that has some real upside. I know AD Mitchell hasn't panned out for the Colts, but I think AD Mitchell more than anything just hasn't had the opportunity, right? When you look at that wide receiver room, it's been Pittman, Josh Downs, and Alec Pearson. I know they've all dealt with injuries over the last couple of seasons, but I think if AD Mitchell is consistently on the football field like he will be with the Jets, I think he'll prove to be a pretty decent wide receiver. Will he be the answer as their number two receiver for the foreseeable future? Maybe not, but he's going to be automatically the second most talented receiver in this room. And going into next season, when you will have a rookie quarterback, your receiver room at least feels a little bit more, you feel more confident in the receiver room with Garrett Wilson and AD Mitchell. And then inevitably, you're going to draft a receiver and probably sign another one too. So it's a step in the right direction for this wide receiver room. And the two first round draft picks. I mean, you see two first rounds get traded every once in a while, right? The Micah Parsons trade, the Khalil Mack trade a few years ago, the Stafford trade. But we're talking about players that in the edge rushers at the time, Micah Parsons, number one, number two, best edge rusher in the league. Same thing with Khalil Mack. Matthew Stafford viewed as a huge upgrade over Jared Goff at the time. Two first round picks get traded for superstars. And that's what Sauce Gardner is. So it's not like the Jets cheaped out and they got a 1 and a 4 for Sauce, right? I think from a value perspective, it's hard to be mad at two first round picks. It's just something we don't see often in the NFL. And when it does happen, it's for the absolute superstars. And when you take the two first plus AD Mitchell, who was a former second round pick just a few seasons ago, I mean, when was the last trade that a team got two first and a second round pick for? I think strictly value, take the names away, take who the player is for a 25-year-old superstar cornerback, two first, and a wide receiver that has some real upside. I think Muji did a good job in terms of value. With that being said, this wasn't just some random player. This is Sauce Gardner we're talking about. This is somebody that is a two-time All-Pro, a two-time Pro Bowler. Through his first 4 seasons in the NFL, he is number one in terms of completion percentage allowed, number one in forced incompletions. He's been one of the best corners in football over the last 4 seasons. And people make jokes all the time. They call him Ahmad because he should be stripped from the Sauce nickname. It's funny looking now because everyone says how much he's fallen off over the last couple of seasons, which I have completely denied for the last 2 seasons. I said, listen, is he the best corner in football like he was the first 2 years? Probably not. But we're still talking about a top 5, if not top 10 corner at absolute worst. Now that he's off the Jets, everyone's like, oh my God, how can you trade Sauce Gardner? And I was like, I thought you hated him. Regardless, this isn't talk about stupid people on the internet. Let's talk about Sauce and what he means for this Colts team. He's going to be great. He's going to be awesome. This season, he was, I think, playing at a higher level that he was last year, but not quite to the level he was his first 2 seasons. He faced opponents' number one wide receivers on 45% of coverage snaps. That was the most in the NFL. So he was consistently being lined up across from opponents' number one receivers. And he forced tight window throws 52% of the time. Number one in the NFL. He was number one. PS2 was number two. They were both over 52%. The next highest was Quinyon Mitchell, under 40%. So he was consistently, really able to have tight coverage when he was going up against some of the best receivers in football this year. And I feel like the only thing that Sauce gets flagged for, I guess it's a couple of things. Number one is the flags. He does get flagged, right? I think in the first couple of years, he got away with some holdings, some pass interference, just being physical and handsy that candidly he hasn't got away with in the last couple of seasons. With that being said, a lot of corners are handsies, and I do think that more often than not he got the short end of the stick. I feel like maybe this is me, my Jets bias coming out, but I felt like there were plenty of times where refs could let the play go on and they called it on him. Sauce even had comments after one of the games. It might have been the Cowboys game where he said, I see other corners do this all the time. They don't get flagged, but for some reason I get flagged. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you want to make jokes about it, fine. But if we're talking about real football, I don't think it really matters. And the other thing is just the lack of interceptions, right? You talk about how great this corner is. He's a top 5 corner in football. Why doesn't he get interceptions? Should he have more? Sure. But when I look at corners and how I distinguish if you're a great corner, if you're a bad corner, if you're a good corner, interceptions don't really matter to me. Don't get me wrong. It's a huge plus if you have instinct and you're really a ball hawk like Trayvon Diggs a couple of seasons ago. But in reality, the best corners don't get targeted a ton. So you don't have a lot of opportunities to get interceptions. For example, this year, through 7 games, Sauce was targeted 22 times. The Jets cornerback 2, Brandon Stevens, he's been targeted 35 times. So from a down to down basis, he's not getting a lot of targets, right? He's not having the opportunity to get interceptions. And on top of that, the Jets are 1-7. They're not winning a lot of games. More often than not, the opponent is running on the Jets to try to bleed out the clock or just control the game because they don't have to score. So he's just not put in as many opportunities to force interceptions. So I think all in all, it's a little silly to talk about interceptions when it comes to Sauce. He's great. He's a top 5 corner in football. I think PS2 is over him, reigning defensive player of the year. Beyond that, it's up for debate, right? If you want to take Quinyon, Derek Stingley's having an awful season. Nobody's really talking about it. There's a lot of good corners, but I think Sauce is pretty firmly in that second, third, fourth, top 5 corner conversation. So he's great. We know he's great. He's going to be great with the Colts. I think they got really, I don't want to say a steal because they definitely ponied up, 2 first-round picks. You're trading a good chunk of your future and relying on Daniel Jones, who he's been great this year. He's been fantastic this year. He's had injury concerns. He's been a bad quarterback more often than he's been a good quarterback. So you are really banking on this team, continuing to play this well. And I think this season they're 7-2. They'll make the playoffs. Hell, they could be the 1 seed. But you're also banking on doing this again next season, or else the Jets could be looking at a potential, top 10, top 15 pick. Let's talk about the Jets side really quick. I was shocked. I was appalled because you see this from time to time when new regimes take over. They don't mind trading old draft picks. They don't mind trading players that they didn't either draft or sign. So I understand in that aspect why you move off Sauce. But in July, they gave him a 4-year, $120 million extension, right? They could have not given him that extension. He had 2 years left on his deal. It's not like he would have been a free agent at the end of the season. He had 2 years left. I thought it was a great move by them because you see when you get out ahead of these extensions, they age really well, right? Because if you have to sign Sauce Gardner in 2 years, opposed to today, it's going to be more expensive in 2 years than it will today. So I thought it was a good move from Muji Glenn in this front office. But the fact that you signed him to that extension made me think that this was a building block. This was someone that's going to be here for the long haul. Maybe a couple of years down the road, if things don't go right, then you move off him. But the same season, a few months later, it was shocking. So I still don't have a great explanation as to why they did it. My general thoughts was number one, I think they feel really good about the cornerback room. They signed Brendan Stevens, who I shit on, but he's been great for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Like he has been legit a top probably 15 to 20 corner in football since week 4. They traded for Jarvis Brownlee, who's been one of the best slot corners in football. And then they drafted AZ Thomas, who just got his first start against the Bengals, going up against T. Higgins, going up against Jamar Chase. He let up one bomb play to T. Higgins, and T. Higgins got the best of him. Don't get me wrong. But other than that, you didn't really notice him. He wasn't on the broadcast. Oh my God, here goes AZ Thomas getting burnt again by Jamar Chase. It wasn't the case. He went up against 2 of the best receivers in football and more than held their own. So I think part of it is they feel confident about this cornerback room. And the other part is if you get 2 first-round picks for a team that's 1-7, it's hard to pass up, right? Unless that player is a quarterback or, a superstar wide receiver. Like there's a reason Garrett Wilson is untouchable because you need to build an offense around a future rookie quarterback. But for a corner who's, again, awesome, I'm not trying to have Jets bias. I'm not trying to be like, oh my God, my franchise is brilliant. They're far from. They're the worst run organization in sports. But I think just if you take a very simple view of it, a cornerback, you get 2 first-round picks and a guy that was drafted in the second round. That's a trade package that you really don't ever see in the NFL. So it took a lot for Muji to move off Sauce, but I think this is the type of package that you can't be too upset with if you're a Jets fan. You could be upset because you love the player, you love Sauce. He's been the face of this franchise for the last few years. He's got an awesome nickname. He's a great corner. We thought this was going to be the next Darrelle Revis. But you got 2 first-round picks and a receiver that could be your future wide receiver too. I love Sauce. I think he's going to be great for the Colts. I want to keep saying that because I don't want this to seem like I'm low on him or I think the Jets fleece by any means. It's not true. But I also look at the state of the organization. They're 1-7. They have a ton of holes, including quarterback. I'm not so mad that they got 2 future 1st-round picks that they can use to trade for a quarterback, potentially move up in the 26 or 27 draft to get theirs. Moving on. Quinnen Williams gets moved to the Dallas Cowboys for a 2027 1st-round pick, the better of the Cowboys or Packers picks. Remember, they have the Micah pick. It's probably the Cowboys pick, right? The Packers will most likely be a playoff team, barring an injury to Jordan Love or something. Plus a 2026 second, plus Mozzie Smith, who is just a throw, and he's someone that is, a former 1st-round pick, but he's not very good. This was a trade that I wasn't as shocked with, especially once the Sauce trade went through, right? Once Sauce went through, it's like, okay, everyone is available, not named Garrett Wilson. And I am shocked that the Jets got this much for Quinnen Williams. And Quinnen is great. He has been one of, if not the best Jets of the 2020s. He's been here for 7 seasons, multiple Pro Bowls. He's been an All-Pro. He was great against the run. He's the number one run interior defensive lineman per PFF. He eats up double teams. He's really good in terms of being a pass rusher. He's not like super elite like Dexter Lawrence in this prime or anything like that, but he is above average to really good pass rusher. He's just an awesome player. But I think for where the Jets are, this trade makes more sense, at least than the Sauce trade, because Sauce, it's like he's 25. If this team's good in 3 years, he'll be 28 and still in the peak of his powers. But Quinnen is different because he's going to be turning 28 in December. He has a $22 million cap hit next season. And truth of the matter is, if the Jets get good, who knows? They might never get good. That's been, the last 15 years never been good. If they get good, it's probably going to take 2 to 3 seasons. Quinn will be 30, 31 years old, probably on the decline. And the fact that they got a 1st and 2nd-round pick for him, I'm impressed. I think Quinnen is a great player, but a 1st and 2nd-round pick, I mean, that's something like, again, Micah Parsons got traded for 2 firsts, and this is a 1st and a 2nd-round pick. The value isn't that drastically different. So, again, from a value perspective, it's hard to be mad at what the Jets did. A 1st and 2nd-round pick, interior defensive lineman, 28 years old, has a big cap hit next season. On top of that, Quinnen wanted out. It's been reported by Connor Hughes that 3 separate occasions he requested a trade, basically since we moved on from Aaron Rodgers. He looked at the team and said, we're not competing. Why am I going to be here? And I get that. And I respect the hell out of Quinnen for keeping this private and not leaking out to the media, not telling some beat reporter. Nobody ever knew about this. This was between the front office and Quinnen Williams and his agent, and all the respect in the world, because if this got leaked out that Quinnen Williams wanted out, he's not going to report, whatever the case might be, the Jets don't get a 1st and 2nd-round pick. I don't even know if they get a 1st-round pick. If teams knew that they were desperate to move off Quinnen Williams, they have some more leverage in that case. But the fact that Quinnen kept this close to the vest, kept it between the organization himself, all the respect in the world. I hope one day his number gets retired. I don't know if he was good enough, but he was in such a good Jet and just such a stand-up dude, good in the community. Just, he has such a great personality. It sucks to see him go. But again, from just a team-building perspective, you got a 1st in 2027 that's shaping up to be an awesome draft class. And we're 2 years out. A lot of things can change. But, Jeremiah Smith is going to be in that draft class. The possibility of Arch Manning is going to be in that draft. There is so many dudes in that class. I'm not as well versed in terms of that draft class as some other ones, but just from people I respect, the Matt Millers of the world, the Connor Rogers of the world, Trevor Sikkema, love that draft class. I think that could be like a really special group. So now you have 3 1st-round picks in 2027. You have 2 1st-round picks in 2026. Plus, you have 2 2nd-round picks in 2026. The Jets are loaded right now. They're loaded with draft picks. So we talked about Quinnen, we talked about Sauce. Let's take a step back now and just kind of in a generic overview of what the Jets did today. They sent a clear message, I think, to the team and to the fans that this team needs to be overhauled. I think coming into this season, you looked at key parts of this team like Quinnen Williams, like Sauce Gardner, and said, these are building blocks. These are foundational pieces that we're going to mold, right? We're going to mold the secondary around Sauce. We're going to mold the defensive line around Quinnen Williams. But they sat here at 1-7, and I don't think it's necessarily the players' fault. More so, I don't think the coaching, especially on the defensive side of the ball, has been very good. They've been a terrible defense. Like, this has been one of the worst defenses in football, and it's far from Quinnen or Sauce's fault. I'm not trying to put any sort of blame on them. They have been, two of the bright spots on this defense. But I think Muji and Glenn took a real look at this roster and said, we need picks, we need ammunition, we need opportunities to make moves in the next couple of seasons because we love Quinnen, we love Sauce. If it's Justin Fields, it doesn't matter. If it's Zach Wilson, it doesn't matter. And I know people make jokes all the time, and they can because the Jets are a joke and they haven't made the playoffs in 15 years. And they said, "Oh, surely the Jets haven't had multiple first round picks in a draft class and hit on the picks, and it all works out, right?" It's kind of unfair because in that it was the 2022 draft class when you get Sauce, when you get Garrett, when you get Jermaine, and when you get Brees Hall, who's basically a first round pick. Yeah, you hit on all four of those guys. But what did we see? If you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter. You had multiple seasons of Zach Wilson and you hit home runs and grand slams on four draft picks, and it didn't matter because your quarterback was god awful. So I think Glenn is taking a little bit of the Detroit approach when they had multiple first round picks when it was Jahmyr Gibbs and Brian Branch was the second, Alex Anzalone in the first. I think that is not Anzalone, Jack Campbell. I think that's the route they're going with here, where let's just load up on draft picks for the next couple of seasons. We're going to be tanking in 2026. You just traded two of your 3, 4 best players. We're going to be definitely worse than what we were just a week ago. So we have a real chance to get the number one overall pick in 2026. And again, it hasn't happened in my lifetime. So why would it happen next year? But if we just lived in a fantasy land, if we lived in a fantasy world where the Jets hit on a quarterback in 2026, maybe not even hit, but maybe they get somebody who's like the 10th to 15th best quarterback in football, and you just have stability there. All of a sudden, you could go into the 2027 season with a quarterback you really like. You have another first round pick that's the Colts this year, plus multiple second round picks. So you can mold this roster with your quarterback. You could get another wide receiver in those second round picks. Can you get another interior defensive lineman, linebacker, safety? You're going to have at minimum 4 premium picks that should be 4 new starters on this team. So if you look 2 years down the road, the Jets could be, okay, I don't want to say it out loud because it doesn't happen and it probably won't happen because it's the Jets. But there's a world where you're going into 2027 with a quarterback you like and a wide receiver group that you like, an offensive line group that's been awesome this year, and an offensive coordinator that I think more often than not you've been happy with. And you have the 2027 draft with 3 first round picks. I mean, again, like, things go wrong for the Jets. They always go wrong. So I'm not going to sit here and promise anybody that this is the time they get it right. Muji's the guy. Aaron Glenn knows what he's doing. I can't say that with confidence. I can't. I was just saying a few weeks ago that these guys could be one and done. They could be fired, and maybe they should be fired. I can't say with confidence they are the guys. What I can say with the 1 year, not even 1 year, the 6, 7 months that we have of Muji and Aaron Glenn's history is, from a personnel perspective, from a roster moves perspective, it's not bad. You know what I mean? If you look in the draft, Membu looks like a stud. Mason Taylor looks really good. Looks like a tight end that the Jets are going to have for multiple seasons. AZ Thomas has been one start. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but shit, going up against T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, it's hard to be upset the performance he put up. Malachi Moore, again, someone we have to wait a little bit and see, but he got his first start just a couple weeks ago. He looks fine. I mean, if your first 4 picks in the draft hit, or at least starters, that's a great starting point. And we've discussed some of the trades that Muji has made for Briggs and Brownlee. And he's not without his faults, right? Like, he gave Justin Fields that contract. That's looking like a miss. right? He signed wide receivers like Tyler Johnson and brought back Alan Lazard when they could have got better options. That looks like a miss. I'm not saying he's perfect by any means, but I think just through one offseason so far, it hasn't been a swing and a miss, right? Like, look at Joe Douglas's first draft. Denzel Mims, and it was Mekhi Becton. And, I defended Joe Douglas to the very end. And you look back on it, it's like through one offseason, I think Muji has probably done a better job. And Joe Douglas got like 6 years here. So, two first round picks in 2026, three first round picks in 2027. And again, those 2027 picks, there's a world where they have multiple top 10 picks, right? You are banking on Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. Let's not sit and act like they're the Baltimore Ravens or Kansas City Chiefs or Buffalo Bills. That is an organization that has missed the playoffs. It's an organization that I don't think you feel really good about Daniel Jones, but yeah, this isn't Lamar Jackson. This isn't Patrick Mahomes, right? This is a quarterback that's playing really well right now, but an injury history, a bad play history. And then you have the Dallas Cowboys, who some years they're great and they make the playoffs, and other years Dak gets banged up or CD gets banged up or their coach isn't good and they completely miss the playoffs and they're picking the top 10, top 12. So, yeah, there's a real possibility that the Jets go into 2027 with multiple top 10 picks in a draft class that should be loaded. And you could start seeing the logic and the reasons why they made these moves. It wasn't easy, and I don't think I would have been able to make those deals if I was Darren Muji, because you got to face the media and Jets fans. And, I'm sure this went through Woody Johnson as well, saying, listen, Woody, we're going to trade Sauce. This is the guy that probably sold the most jerseys this year. You're getting season tickets because people want to see him play. And we're trading Quinnen Williams, who's been the staple for your franchise since 2019. He has been, a great locker room guy. Like, these are conversations that I think get overlooked because we talk so much about football and just, oh, is this the right value? Is this, did this guy get fleeced? Did this team get fleeced? In reality, there's a lot of more personal things that have to go through with it, and a lot of business side things that have to go through with it that I'm sure some GMs just can't handle or won't handle, because those are two moves that, I mean, Muji's got balls. I don't think there's two ways to put it. Like, you are putting your nuts on the table saying, I'm going to hit on these draft picks. Quinnen Williams, Sauce, you've been awesome, but I have faith in myself and my scouting department that will be able to not replace you, but will be able to find a quarterback, develop a quarterback, hit on some wide receivers, hit on potentially a running back, because Breece Hall, more likely than not, will be on a different team next season. So Muji is, he's putting a lot of faith in himself, and I can respect that. But man, this was a really, really bold move. And let me just finish off by saying this one thought. Why do people think the Jets should trade Garrett Wilson? I see people all the time saying on the internet, you trade Sauce, you trade Quinnen, but you're not going to trade Garrett? No, you're not trading Garrett Wilson. This team is showing you what it's trying to do. It is going to build around a rookie quarterback. Why on earth would you trade Garrett Wilson when you're going to have a rookie quarterback next season? You want his wide receiver one to be A.D. Mitchell? You want him to have a running back room that's just going to be Isaiah Thomas and Braylon Allen next season? I'm still trying to hold out some hope that they can re-sign Breece, because I want Breece back for a rookie quarterback. I want Garrett as my wide receiver one for a rookie quarterback. You have to be able to make the situation as good as possible for this quarterback, because 1 year, confidence goes up, confidence goes down. You need to have guys that can consistently win, beat man coverage, find the soft spot in the zone. You got to have a good offensive coordinator in Tanner Engstrand that is able to maximize all of these players. So yeah, you don't trade Garrett Wilson. He's untouchable. And that gave me, honestly, that made me feel good. I was like, you know what, Muji? I think you know what you're doing. Garrett Wilson should be untouchable. If I had to trade Garrett or Sauce, I'm trading Sauce. Like, no disrespect. If I had to trade anybody, number one untouchable is Garrett Wilson. He's awesome. This is, I think, a top 10 receiver in football from a talent perspective. He hasn't put the numbers up because he's had some bad quarterback play. But no. You're not getting Garrett Wilson. I don't care. Offer me 3 first-round picks. You're not getting Garrett Wilson. Go trade for Jacoby Myers or A.D. Mitchell like the Jets did, or Rashid Shaheed. Like, there's a reason these top receivers don't get moved that often, because they're so important in today's NFL. Whew, all right. 25 minutes of Jets talk. I think that's enough. So I'll close it with this. The draft is a crapshoot. At best, it's a 50-50 proposition in the first round, and second round, third round, fourth round, the odds of hitting on a player just get worse, and worse. If the Jets hit on a quarterback in 2026, the Sauce trade won't matter. The Quinnen Williams trade won't matter. If you hit on a quarterback and you get a guy that is a franchise quarterback, these trades do not matter because you have a franchise quarterback and future draft picks that you can build a team, like a legit team around. So it wouldn't matter. If you miss on a quarterback in 2026 and miss on a quarterback potentially in 2027, yes, it will matter because you traded two awesome all pro level players for draft picks that didn't turn into a quarterback. It really makes it simple and it makes something complicated seem very just straightforward. But that's the truth in the NFL. If you have a great quarterback, you're going to be a good team. If you have a bad quarterback, you're probably going to have a bad team outside of a couple of outliers. So my first reaction when all this happened was, oh my God, the Jets have no idea what they're doing. Um, and they still might not know what they're doing because they got hit on these draft picks. But I think just let everything breathe. It's been 7 or 8 hours now since some of these trades went through. I'm not so emotionally attached to what just happened. I'm not saying the Jets hit a home run. I'm not saying the Jets struck out. All I'm saying is hit on the draft picks. If you hit on the draft picks, this is fine. So I appreciate you guys listening. Leave a like, give me a comment. I respond to every comment on these videos. See you next time.